Ciao, benvenute e salute. That means welcome to salute in Italian, where we toast to wine, music, art, fashion, and Italian culture. I'm your host, Joanne Gallo, and I'm going to share some interesting facts with you about the red wine, Pinot Noir. Joining me on the show today is my special guest, Marlene Hill, author of the book, Last Fling in Venice.
Volare, oh, cantare, oh.
The Pinot Noir grape is a red wine grape and is considered to produce some of the finest wines available. Pinot Noir has been around for a very long time. Pinot Noir is one of the oldest grape varieties to be cultivated for the purpose of making wine. The grape was first planted by the Gauls of what is now France before the Roman invasion. The ancient Romans loved this grape and vinified it as early as the 1st century AD. It is said that Roman emperors coveted this wine for more than 300 years. But the single most important reason that Pinot Noir survives to this day has to do with Catholic monks. This was the wine of choice for use in their sacraments, and with the approval of the Church, it gained mass appeal. The Pinot Noir grape is difficult to grow, and just the right growing conditions are necessary for a successful yield. The main reason for this grape being so difficult to grow is that it has a very thin skin. This makes it susceptible to fungal infections and rot. Also, the vines can become easily overrun with mildew in warmer climates. So the best regions to grow this grape are those with a cooler, drier climate with a large amount of sunlight and excellent drainage. Due to the strict growing requirements for Pinot Noir, it is produced in much smaller quantities than other popular red wines. Therefore, you will also pay a little more for Pinot Noir as the supply and demand theory kicks in. However, you can still get a really good bottle of this wine for a reasonable price. The most prized region for growing Pinot Noir grapes is the Burgundy region of France. A few factors which contribute to this are that the vineyards are situated on an east-sloping hill that provides prolonged solar exposure, and the soil has a high chalk content, which offers exceptional drainage. Our own Willamette Valley, right here in Oregon, is also a superior growing region for this grape. This is an interesting fact. During the last ice age, great flooding occurred in the Willamette Valley. After the waters receded, rich volcanic silt was deposited along the valley floor, which produced some of the best agricultural land in the world. The valley also receives a large amount of sunlight, unlike Portland, and has an excellent drainage system. Pinot Noir wines from the Willamette Valley are considered to be the best in the Americas. So, Pinot Noir is a dry red wine that typically has strong fruit flavors such as cherry, strawberry, raspberry, and blackberry. There are also some earth-driven flavors that are quite common in a glass of Pinot Noir. Flavors like mushroom, leather, vanilla, cinnamon, and clove. Pinot Noir is full-bodied and rich, but not heavy. The soft, velvety texture makes this wine very appealing. It has a range of colors, from cherry red to purple red, and even brown as the wine ages. Pinot Noir is considered by many to be one of the world's most versatile food wines. This wine plays well with creamy sauces and spicy seasonings. Good pairings are with poultry, pork, beef, bacon, cheese, and chocolate. It is also well suited to pair with a variety of ethnic dishes. It should be served at around 61 degrees Fahrenheit. Choosing a proper glass to drink Pinot Noir out of is important to truly enjoying the wine. Make sure the glass is pale and clear, no frosted or colored glass, so you will have an uninterrupted view of the wine color. The glass should be of sufficient size with a large bowl to allow an ample amount of liquid into it, but still have plenty of room for a gentle swirl. Be sure to choose the glass with a stem or base so that fingerprints are not transferred to the bowl, which continues to allow a clearer view of the wine. If you can, find a glass that tapers inwards at the top. It concentrates the aromas into a flume and helps to avoid spills too. The popularity of Pinot Noir has increased over the last few years. A trend for lighter, less alcoholic wines has grown, and Pinot Noir fits into this category. Perhaps you remember our episode where we talked about the wine Merlot and how it became more famous because of the movie Sideways. Well, the same holds true for Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is heavily featured as the preferred wine in the movie, and due to the success of the film at the box office, Pinot Noir sales soared. The film Sideways follows two middle-aged men who embark on a week-long wine tour in California. If you haven't already, I do hope you will try Pinot Noir and enjoy all the lovely characteristics this wine has to offer. Coming up next is author Marlene Hill, so stay tuned. I'm excited to have with me in the studio here today author Marlene Hill, and she wrote a book called Last Fling in Venice. Welcome, Marlene. So glad you could be here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so Venice, wow, I love Venice. It's one of my favorite cities in the world.
Well, you're with a lot of people, and I'm one of them, that's for sure. If I could afford it, I would live there. I really would.
Yeah, so why don't we back up a little bit and just kind of talk about what inspired you to write this book about, well, obviously other things, but it also has Venice involved in it.
Well, I've been very much in love with Italy for a long, long time. The first time I ever heard of Italy, I was in the 3rd grade in Cedar Rapids, Nebraska, which was 643 people. And my teacher had 2 grades in one room. And some of us were disruptive. I won't mention any names.
Not you, of course.
No. So my task was to go to the library and write a report about ancient Rome. And so I've been sort of hooked since way back. Yeah. And then I got to go to Venice many years after that, and that was one of the first cities I saw when I was in Italy. But I've been there many other times and visited many other places, but I always kept coming back to Venice. And I like to arrange my flights to land in Venice because the airport isn't very large and the city is quiet and it's a nice place to arrive after a long trip. And it's hard to leave, but it's still a good place if you have to leave from.
Yeah, it's just such a magical place. I don't know.
Is.
I know what you're saying. Just something about it is even hard to describe. So.
Well, it has a lot to do with water, I think. The water is all around. Everything is done from the water. People don't realize, you say, well, there's no cars in Venice. Until you get there, it doesn't mean anything. But if you're there for a while, everything is done. Everything is delivered by water. If anything needs to be repaired, a crane, or maybe not the huge cranes, they're probably mounted on the land, but mostly anything that they need to do, any work on a building, they do it from a boat, a big flat bottom boat in the canal, and it's just a dreamy place. In spite of that, it would be hard to live there. I realize that. There are hardly any elevators. And so you carry all of your groceries upstairs by hand. I would do it anyway.
Yeah.
Just to be there. Just to be there.
Well, good. Well, I hope your dream comes true someday.
I do too.
Yeah. So did you just wake up one day and say, oh, I think I'll write a book about Venice? Or?
Well, no. I always take notes when I travel. So I have written another book and a nonfiction about Italy. So I started from there. But then I just one day woke up with an idea that I want to do Venice. And I want to do fiction now, not nonfiction.
Yeah.
And fiction is powerful. You are the goddess. You can do anything you want in fiction.
Be so creative.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to write the book?
About 2 years, write and rewrite.
Okay.
Writing is mostly rewriting.
And how long has it been out in the market?
July.
Oh, okay.
Just this
so
past
recently.
July. 2012. Yeah.
Okay, good, good. And then I believe you self-published the book, or
I did. Yes.
Okay,
The
great.
publishing world has gotten very difficult. It takes a long time to find an agent. Publishers prefer to deal with agents, especially publishers of fiction. So I sent queries out to fiction agents, and then I went to a conference in March. Put on by the Oregon Writers Colony here in Portland. And it was a 2-day conference, and they told us all about how we could publish either through Amazon or any other small publisher, and how to do electronic publishing. So I decided after that 2-day conference that I wanted to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I found somebody to do the technical part, because I'm not a techie. And so I have it on Kindle, and it can be bought from Amazon. You can go to Powell's online or Barnes & Noble online. And I think there's one other, Books A Million.
Oh, okay.
And so that's, or you could go to any bookstore
Mm-hmm.
and ask them to publish it, because it's published on demand.
Oh.
I mean, they wouldn't publish it, but they would order it.
I see.
And I think there's kind of a beauty to having something published on demand, because if it doesn't sell off the shelves right away, it's still available.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be available for a long time, whereas publishers finally have to get rid of their books that aren't bestsellers. And so I like that idea.
Sure. Yeah, that's
Of course,
great.
I hope this will be a bestseller, but naturally.
Well, yeah, for sure. Okay, so like, who was the most important influence in your life?
Probably my Grandpa Hill.
Mm-hmm.
He was the person that gave me unconditional love. I mean, he praised me and told me I could do anything, you know. And at home, my parents, I think, having come through the Great Depression, were sort of afraid of life, and they were afraid. I think they were afraid of being a parent. I mean, they were good. They were good parents, but I didn't feel unconditionally loved. But Grandpa gave me that, and he was also a wonderful storyteller. And my cousins and I would listen to him retell the famous fairy tales. And of course, he would screw them all up. And then we'd have to say, no, no, Grandpa, that's not the way it is. And he loved that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So I got that storytelling and that love from him.
Yeah, I can see you inherited that. Where it comes from. Well,
Right.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so who are some other romance writers that impress you?
Well, there's a slew of them. Sandra Brown, who's been writing romances for 20 years. She's going more now into romantic thrillers. And then there's Linda Howard and Tammy Hoag, H-O-A-G, Robin Carr, C-A-R-R. What's the other one I was thinking of? Can't remember right now. She writes paranormal romance.
Okay.
So I read sort of romantic thrillers, I read regular romance, I read fictional romance, historical romance. I read a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
I read other things too. I'm in a book group, but romance is fun.
So you yourself are not Italian, but you
No.
just have a love of all things Italian, which is very,
That's right,
very cool.
that's right, that's right.
And
I don't think I am Italian in this life, but I'm sure I was way back in the Etruscan times. Yeah, yeah. The first time I went to Orvieto, which is halfway between Rome and Florence, and it sits up on a high 1,000 feet off the valley floor, sort of a pinnacle of tufa, which is a very porous volcanic rock. And the ancient Etruscans were very strong in Orvieto. And so I wanted to go there. Of course, I'd read about it. And they have tombs there. When I first walked into those tombs, I had such a powerful deja vu experience that it just sort of, it shook me. I wandered
you
around
knew
for a
you'd been
while.
there before somehow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was sure I'd been there before. And though I still go back every time I'm in Italy, I always go to Orvieto. And I always have that feeling, but of course it's weaker now. I know I'm waiting for it, and it still happens.
Yeah. When's the last time you were in Italy?
Oh, about 5 years ago.
And are you ready to go back?
I would love to go back, but the euro is so strong compared to the dollar.
Yeah.
And my assets have dwindled. I've been retired for many years, and my assets have dwindled thanks to the last couple Wall Street ventures,
Fiascos.
we could say. So I'm not sure if I'll get back.
Yeah.
So if I can't go back, I'm going to write about it.
Sure. be there in your mind and in your heart.
That's
Always, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, why don't you read just a little something, you know,
Well,
from
I
the
brought
book?
my specs here.
Yeah,
I can
that'd
read.
be great. Just to kind of tantalize a little bit about the book.
I'll just read the first page is all. I'd know that ass anywhere. I'll be damned. It is Mark Barove. I will not turn around. Yep, hasn't changed much. Marlowe stopped for a split second on the first flight up to the Grand Sala. Thought that'd get you, he whispered behind her. It was intermission of the Vivaldi concert, and people were moving up the huge staircase to see Tintoretto's paintings that covered the walls and ceiling of the most incredible room she'd ever been in, and she wanted to see them again. What are you doing in Venice? Marlowe said, turning to confront him. He almost knocked her off her feet, but quickly steadied her, chuckling in that rumbling way she remembered from 5 years before in L.A. He put his big hands around her waist to swing her to the side of the stairway, letting others pass. Some things never change, still maneuvering, and you're letting him. So now you're an impresario for Vivaldi, she asked. Hey, that's good. For tonight, I am a kind of impresario. I see. I suppose you're making promises to gullible women in your music ensemble. Oh, Marlowe, you've never forgiven me, have you? You do know I thought I could keep those promises made at Johnson's, don't you? She didn't respond. Look, we'll talk later, he said, taking her arm and walking her up the stairs. Where are you staying?
So, very powerful. Well, cool. And I know that you also, this is not your first book, right? You have another one called Alone with Michelangelo. And you want to tell us just a little bit about this book as well?
Well, yeah, it was written after I'd been traveling to Italy for a long, long time, many years. And each time I go anywhere, I write notes and I speculate about, would I like to live here? How would it be to live there? And so for a while, I thought I was sure I was always going to want to live in Rome, and then I wanted to live in Florence. Then I thought maybe Perugia, which is another Etruscan stronghold. Orvieto is so small that I knew I probably wouldn't want to live there, but I would just always go there, visit. And of course, Venice. But when I wrote this book, I didn't put any notes in it about Venice because I had so many notes about Venice, and I knew I wanted to save that for another book, which was going to be another nonfiction book.
Okay. And it says here, a woman follows her dreams to Italy. I like that. And how long ago did you write this one?
This was published in 2002 by Amato Books here in Portland.
Oh, okay. So you didn't self-publish this one?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Great. All right. And so where could folks find this book in the bookstores?
Well, Powell still carries it, and I have them, but they're out of print. And I may do the electronic thing with that.
I see.
And have it. And Amazon has 3 separate publishing entities. They have the Create Space, that's one word, which publishes books for print on demand. Then they have Kindle, which is the electronic book.
Right.
And then they have Amazon Publishing, which would publish a book like this after it's already been published somewhere else.
Oh.
As long as you have the rights for that, and I do.
Oh,
so
great.
I could have that done.
Wow. Well, I'm learning a lot today.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us or share with us? Or?
Well, I think everybody should go to Italy.
I agree.
Yes. They say that Italy has 70% of all of the art in the world, and I believe it. And so many of their museums are crammed full, and they don't have room to display them all.
Yeah.
And I've been in most of the museums in the big cities. And I've lived a total, if I could add it all together, I've lived probably about 3 years in Italy, but it's all been 1 or 2 months at a time.
I see.
So which is great. I mean, I'm glad to have been able to do that.
Yeah. Well,
but I'd love to.
You're fortunate.
live.
I've only been twice and ready, like you.
And
to go
you're
back.
Italian.
Yeah, I know.
Where's your family from?
Actually, Sicily and Napoli, Naples. So I'm, both sides actually. So I'm really, half Neapolitan and half Sicilian.
Have you been to Sicily?
I have. Yeah, I really liked it. And like you, I really felt like I connected there.
I bet you did.
I felt like it was home, and I saw a lot of people that kind of, had the same kind of characteristics as me and things like that. So it was kind of a really cool feeling. Yeah. And not to mention the food is awesome. And it was just beautiful. And since I'm third generation, we don't really have a lot of relatives there still. And so we don't have, people to go visit per se, which would be nice. But
Have you been to Naples?
Yes, I did. And actually, one of the most fun things we did was we took a cruise from Naples to Sicily, the overnight ferry.
Oh.
And that was really, really nice trip.
That's
it was
neat.
a lot of fun. And it was like, I slept the best I've ever slept, I think, that night. I don't know, it was just the rhythm of the water and being on the ferry and maybe being in a foreign land or something. But it was a really great experience. So.
I've only been in Naples twice. Both just short times, one overnight and the other one on a bus tour. And that is one wild city as far as traffic is concerned.
Oh, yeah. yeah, it was pretty crazy. Well, and Rome, too. I have to say that Rome I thought was pretty chaotic.
It is, but Rome is so big. And you can kind of just hook yourself with somebody crossing the street. I always did that when I first arrived, because you have to get Romanized to walk the traffic in Rome. But they're wonderful drivers, and all you have to do is connect with their eyes.
I see.
And
That's
then
the key.
you just sort of weave in around. If it's fast, you wait till. Well, hardly anybody waits for the lights.
Yeah.
But you can wait for the lights, but hardly anyone ever does.
Yeah, it's quite a place. Well, anyway, so just remember, everyone, that you can get your copy of Last Fling in Venice through Amazon, if you live locally at Powell's Books, and Powell's Online, right? And was it Books A Million? Was that the other place?
Or Barnes & Noble.
And Barnes & Noble.
And you can walk into a bookstore and ask them to order it from Amazon.
Okay.
And it will be published on demand. That's what it is.
Yeah, awesome.
And it'll come to you.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being here today, Marlene.
Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed learning more about your book and about you and your travels to Italy and everything. And
Thank you. Thank you for
hope you
having
had
me.
fun. Sure, and I think that we should toast to that.
Okay.
Here's to Italy and good writers and
Salute.
salute.
Volare, oh, cantare, oh, let's fly way up to the clouds.